Okay, these are the notes that we didn't finish in class, so I wanted to get these 3 problems done for all of you. So for A, B, and C, basically you want to treat the inequality sign like an equal. Your goal is to get x isolated by itself on one side of the inequality sign. So just like if that less than symbol was a equal sign, you would want to isolate the x by subtracting 7. So if I subtract 7 from each side, the 7's cancel, and I get 3x is less than, what is that, 9, or 6, I'm sorry, positive 6. Okay, and then how do you get rid of the 3 that's multiplying x? You need to divide by 3 on each side. So x is less than 2. Now when we graph it, now I realize we did this problem, but just a little bit of repetition never hurt anybody. X is all numbers less than 2. So, you know, if I had like a -1 here, a 0, a 1, and a 2, that should be sufficient. Because I don't have the equal symbol like this example right here does, this little dash, that means that I'm going to have an open circle at 2. And since x is all numbers less than 2, I need to point toward all the numbers that are less than 2. Okay, now this one, many of you got frantic because you didn't know what to do. Well, just as if we were to cover up this side of the inequality, we would know to subtract 7. Or if we subtracted, or if we took out this side of the inequality, we would still subtract 7. So you just kind of do it all in one. You subtract 7 from each side of the inequality. We need it to be 0 in the middle, and since there's 2 inequality symbols, we have 2 sides to subtract 7 from. We get -15 here. We just bring down our symbols. The 7's are gone. They're 0 now. Bring down the -3x. That -3 is going to play a major role here in a second. And 10 minus 7 is +3. So now we need to divide by the -3. So now we just talked about right before class ended that when you divide or multiply by a negative number, you have to flip the inequality sign. Well, we're about to divide 2 sides by a -3. We're dividing the -15 by a -3 and this +3. Okay, so I end up with a 1x. I flip my inequality symbol because I just divided by a negative number. So both of these will get flipped. Oh, and I didn't flip that one. I just rewrote it the same. So I want to flip it. And this becomes a +5 because a negative divided by a negative is positive. And this is a -1. So this reads x is less than or equal to +5 but greater than -1. So basically it's in between -1 and 5. So if I do a number line, change the color, I know I need a 5 here, I need like a -1 there, and we'll just put a 0 just for sake of doing it. X is numbers less than or equal to 5, so that would be a closed circle at 5. And pointing to the numbers that are less than. And x is greater than -1. So I need to point toward all the numbers that are greater than -1. And since there's no equal there, it would be an open circle. And the numbers greater than -1 move in this direction, and I have a solid line. Now for the OR one, it's 2 separate inequalities, so basically you're doing 2 of these kind of problems right here. So let's switch the color again, let's go green. For the first one, if I needed to get x by itself, I would first have to get rid of the 5 and make it 0, so I'd have to subtract 5 from both sides. Then I would have to do something with this -9. Since it's multiplying x, I want to divide by a -9 on both sides. So let's do that. Subtract 5, so it's 0 on the left. These cancel. Bring down the negative with the 9x. Don't forget that because it'll totally throw off your answer if you don't. This becomes a +9. To get rid of the -9 and just make it a plain old 1x, we have to divide by a -9. So that should be setting off alarm bells to flip the symbol. So then I end up with x is less than -1, and I have to graph that. So since x is less than -1, I'm going to go ahead and make my number line from a 0, -1, -2. There's no real point in having any, oh, what did I forget? No one caught me. No, because you guys are not here. Haha. I did not flip my symbol, so that totally changes this and this. Hopefully you guys were like, what is she doing? She didn't flip. And if not, then you need to pay closer attention. We've got to flip this to a greater than sign, so that's a -1. And then we redo our number line. Since x is greater than -1, well, there's no sense in having all the negative numbers. We need positive numbers. Those are the important ones. So make a open circle at -1, and it points toward all the numbers that are bigger. And then we do our second part. I'll do a different color so you guys can see the separation. We need to get x isolated, so we need to make this -17 a 0 by adding 17 to both sides, and then we need a 1x, so to make that a 1 we have to divide by -4. So add 17 to both sides. I get -4x is less than 20. I don't know how bad. I'm going to change colors because I feel like you guys can't see that really well. And then we have to divide by a -4. So I get x is is less than, because we just divided by a negative. I almost did it again. -5. So x is less than -5, and we're using the same number line as this one over here, so I'm going to just plot it on there. X is going to point toward all the numbers that are less than -5, so we're going to have to extend this number line. Should have thought of this prior. So -2, -3, and I'm just going to jump over and put -5 because we're about running out of room there. So I need an open circle at -5, and I have to go toward all the numbers that are less than -5. So I have that. Okay, so we have them going in opposite directions, if you can see. I know I had to write on stuff, I'm sorry about that. Going to the left, going toward the right, and then you have the OR symbol. Okay, so hopefully this helps. If you need additional help on the homework, feel free to Edmodo me. Just make sure you check back when I respond to your question, because it might not be instantaneous.